Hey there, welcome to another HUNTwallet how-to. Today we're going to go through the gear section. So if you're on the or in the mobile app, the gear section can be found by going down to the bottom of the home screen and finding the icon that looks like a Swiss Army knife. Now, before we hop into Gear Locker, Gear List in the gear section, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of give a brief overview of some of the features and kind of why we feel like the gear section is such a powerful feature of the HUNTwallet app. So, first, I think you can think of the gear section.
You are recording again?
No, I hit this. I'm getting good at this, though. All right, we'll do it again. I'll do it again.
Run them again.
Hey there. Welcome to another HUNTwallet how-to. Today we're going to go through the gear section. Before we hop into the features and why we think the gear section is a really powerful feature and tool within the HUNTwallet app, I'm just going to go ahead and give a little overview of what's included and some of the uses for these features in the gear section. So, first off, you can kind of think of the gear section and the gear locker as the closet or the storage that you have at home where you keep all of your hunting gear. In the app, it's always in your hand. It's easily searchable. You can look something up. You always know what you have, and we think that's a real powerful. And then within that, you can search, you can sort. It's super easy to keep track of all these gear items. And I think it'd be important to call out that absolutely up front, entering all your gear into your gear locker is going to take a decent amount of time and a decent amount of effort. But as we go through this how-to and some of the other how-tos that we've done, I think you'll get an idea of why the gear locker feature is so powerful and how when you get all of these gear items into your gear locker, how it makes building hunts really efficient, how it makes building gear lists really efficient, how it makes building specifically group gear lists really efficient. So I think you'll find there that it's worth the upfront time and effort of building the gear locker.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's more than just it making everything efficient in HUNTwallet in the app. For myself, it made everything more efficient, entering it in with all that upfront work. But then I was able to go through all of my gear and take my actual bins of stuff and start labeling things. Archery season, cold weather gear. Here's all my camping gear. Taking that out of bins, just making more conscious organization decisions and where I need to have everything in my gear locker. So, in my physical gear locker in my house, and just everywhere, all that gear. So I'm not looking through bins and tearing everything out just to try to find one thing. And just, classifying it in the app, but also classifying it and putting it in proper bins and making everything easier to prepare for a hunt.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And then just to add to that, it's a chore to go in the basement to pull out all those bins and look through the bins to make sure that you have something. You may not even be at home to make sure that you have some, or you could live in a condo and your storage, like Matt, your storage could be downstairs and not easily accessible. So just adding that extra convenience to have everything that you own at the palm of your fingertips, I think is invaluable.
Yeah, absolutely. That brings up a couple of really good points. And for myself, when I was building my gear locker on my own here, and like you said, I live in a condo, so first I had to go down and pull all my bins out of storage, bring them up, but I just laid everything out, and I just went by piece to enter them in. And one thing for me that was helpful is that way I knew I wasn't missing anything. But a byproduct of that was there were items that I noticed that need to be cleaned, things that maybe were missing a piece or were broken. I either knew it and forgot about it, or I didn't even realize it. One item, I have a KUIU pack, and shout out to KUIU. I was missing a rubber ring, I realized, and they sent one. I got in touch with them, and they sent one to me for free. But I would have not known that I was missing that little small piece had I not gone through that process. So, it's going to take a little bit of time. It's going to take a little bit of effort, but I think there's going to be a number of positives that come out of doing it. And then once you've done it once, all your items are in there. All your items are in the gear locker, and you only have to, update that when you, of course, either get rid of an item or you get a new one. And with the gear locker, I think we oftentimes we focus on the gear that we have, but it's equally as important to know the gear that we don't have. And we just talked about that briefly a minute ago. But when we're out at a sports store, a sportsman's warehouse, we're out at Cabela's, we're out at
local archery shop.
Local archery shop for sure. And they're running a sale, maybe they're running a special, or they've got something going on where they've got something that, and you think to yourself like, shoot, do I need that, or is mine old? And we'll kind of get to that too. Is this a good time to buy? Do I not need that? And again, you've got it in the palm of your hand. So when I'm entering in these items into my gear locker, I like to put in as much detail as possible, and that just helps me kind of keep track of items a little bit easier. And I'm somebody who really likes organization, so that's real helpful for me. One of the examples I like to use is, I've got I like to bring a couple of shirts, a couple of pair of pants if I'm on a multi-day hunt for, say, camp. Like, say we're going back to a camp and we don't have to hike stuff in. I like to keep that kind of stuff to change into. And, if I'm entering in detail, that just helps me keep track of each individual item. Easy to pack for. So that kind of covers the gear locker portion of the gear section. And then we have the wish list portion, and it's what it sounds like. We all have gear that we want. We all have gear that we feel like we need to get next, and this helps us keep track of those items, and then it also helps us keep track of the cost, and that's both individual cost for an item, but also total cost for all of the items on your wish list. So we've found this ourselves particularly helpful as we're approaching hunting season. And we've identified a number of items, each of us, that are must-haves, or things that we need. And knowing what that total cost is and being able to see that real quickly and easily, it helps in our budgeting
100%.
Process. And, gear is just one small part of the budgeting process for hunting. So being able to have that number easily accessible, and then going on to whatever those other budgeting things are, whether it's travel, whether it's food, whether maybe you have yet to have paid for your tag. We do some over-the-counter hunts here in Colorado where I bought my tag 3 days before the hunt because I knew they weren't going to run out. Didn't have to worry about it. But that factors into the budgeting. So it's just good. It's really helpful to have that information easily accessible and right there on your phone.
That has helped me 100% this year. So this is my 6th year hunting, and it took me this long to figure out that I could spread out those costs across the year rather than waiting until August, the beginning of August, and going and buying all the mountain houses, going and buying just miscellaneous items. Now with this, I can look and see, okay, how much is all this going to cost? Let's spread this out. To Matt's point, better budgeting.
When was the last time you think D'Lo ate a mountain house?
I know, right?
I have vague memories of eating mountain houses.
Last year, beef stroganoff.
Maybe that's the one that pushed them over the edge.
It did.
And then lastly, we've made it so that, once you've gotten your your wish list item, it's just real easy to move it over to your gear locker, and then, like we've said, move it from gear locker to any gear list that you're building for your hunt. So, I'll go ahead and I'm going to jump into the app, and we'll just go ahead and go through how to create each of these items, how to move them over where we want them, how to delete an item, and then from there you'll know how to operate and work the gear section. So, starting from the home screen, getting to the gear section is just as easy as going down to the bottom of the screen and finding the what looks like a Swiss Army knife icon, and tapping that, and that'll bring you to the gear section. You can see I've already got quite a few items in here as I've built out my gear locker pretty substantially. But going from top to bottom, you'll see where you can toggle back and forth between the gear locker and the gear list. The wish list. We've got a search feature, so as you can imagine, your gear locker will probably get pretty large. A great number of items in there. I think it looks like I got 91 myself right now, and I know I still have some new items I need to get in there. But the search feature, you can search by the gear, the name, the brand, the model. So it's real helpful if you know exactly what you need to go search for. But for the purpose of this how-to, I'm going to go ahead and create a new item in the gear locker. So to do so, I just need to tap the orange plus sign at the bottom of the screen. That'll bring me to the screen where I'll enter the information for this gear item. Starting from the top, you'll see it lists out item in it, and you'll see it's the only field that has the orange asterisk on it, indicating that it's required. So it's all preference. Like I had spoken to earlier, I like to enter as much detail as I can, but you may not feel like you want or need to do that yourself. So all that is required is the item name. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create or add a pair of boots to my gear locker. Now I title it, or I enter for item, I use a generic title, such as boots in this case. The reason I do that is because the way I've structured my gear locker, I have a number of items that are the same item. So like say shirts or pants or socks or underwear, things like that. But also there are some items that I don't enter a brand or a model for. So, for example, I take trash bags on every hunt that I go on. I'm not going to enter a brand or a model for my trash bags.
Toothbrush,
yeah, exactly. I think for most people, if not all, that's really not of all that important. So in that case, really, toothbrush works, trash can works. That's fine. In this case, I do want to enter the brand and the model. So I'm going to go ahead and type in HUNTwallet, and I believe I have the Machray Trek GTX model. And then the last field to enter is age. And so this one kind of want to specifically call out because I think it's kind of a neat and powerful feature where you have the option, the ability to enter the month and the year that you acquired that gear item. And we just say acquired because you could have got it as a hand-me-down, you could have won it, you could have purchased it, you could have found it in the field. But whenever it is that you acquired it, or if you knew the exact month and year when it was brand new itself, you could enter in that date. So for this pair of boots, I know that I got them in June of 2019. So why we think this is a cool feature is that when you indicate the age or when you acquire that item, going from here out, the gear locker is gonna keep track of and present that age for each item that you have. And so now you know exactly how old each of your gear items is. And, you can use that information in a number of different ways and however it makes sense to you. But, I know for myself, like if I've got, say, a pair of hunting pants, after a couple years, I want to know that I've had those for a couple years, and I want to go ahead and maybe consider that it's time to get a new pair. And I just know that through the typical use I put on a pair of hunting pants. Steve, you've got your own, kind of unique way you use this feature.
Especially with your specific example here with boots. I'll look at it, and I try to do it every 2 years usually, just because boots, you're using it on every hunt. It's an item that is heavily used. So, you go through multiple archery seasons in different states, multiple rifle hunts in different states, and it's one thing that gets neglected a lot is your laces. And the last thing you want is to be in the field and have laces break while you're trying to tighten boots, and then you're searching for a paracord and trying to get them all strung up and make sure you have enough support so that you're not going to get injured, hauling out an animal. But this is a good way that I've found just to keep track. You tear through boots no matter what. Everybody's out there and you're putting tons of miles on them. So they don't last that long, but it's a nice mental thing to know, like, I'm not going to have to worry about this happening.
Yeah, absolutely. That brings up actually a good point too for my boots. Every year I like to give them a spray for the water repellent, for the dirt repellent. Just kind of like give them a good wash. Just make sure that they're in a good condition for upcoming season or whatever it is that's going to be approaching next. So this is just a real neat, easy feature to help you keep track of the age of a vast number of items that I don't necessarily know how you would do so otherwise in an easy way. I mean, you could probably keep track of all that stuff manually, but that's, that doesn't.
It's not intuitive at all.
No. Mm-hmm. So, all right. So we've entered all the fields here for the gear item and gear locker. Last thing we need to do is just tap add to gear locker at the bottom, and it's going to give us a prompt letting us know that the item's been added successfully. And we have two options from here. We can go ahead and add another item, or we can just go to the gear locker. So in this event, for this exercise, I'll just go ahead and tap go to gear locker, and I'll scroll down to the bottom, and there's my boots, and you'll see that they are about 2.5 years old. So as each month and year progresses, the app will automatically update that for you. Another feature that you could take advantage of is you've got these stars here on the right, which is a favorite feature. So if you've got items, and I think boots is actually a pretty good example of this, that you'd like to move up to the top of your gear locker, you can just tap the favorite star there, and it will, of course, move it up all the way up to the top. Now, one way we've used this feature ourselves is there are a number of gear items that you take on every hunt or nearly every hunt.
No matter what season.
No, not season, what the terrain is, species, just down the line. Like
Game bags, toothbrushes.
Game knives.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't have it here in my app because I wanted to show you this feature here for this how-to. But in my gear locker, I don't know, there's probably 24 items here that have been favorited. And then why that's helpful or how that can be helpful is when you're building gear lists, they'll be at the top of that list as well. And so it's like, okay, boom, 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 moving those ones over. I know that. Okay. Now, this is Colorado archery season, September. Okay, now what are the items that I need? And then I'll go through and I'll pick those ones that are more hunt specific or season specific or whatever, like we just discussed. So from here, I'm going to real quickly go out to my home screen and get into one of my hunts. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to build a gear list or move an item over from the gear locker to your gear list once you have it in. So I've navigated over to this gear list for this South Dakota archery mule deer, white-tailed deer hunt that's coming up. And so if I want to add an item to this gear list as I'm building it out, I simply just tap the plus sign. It brings up a prompt that asks me, do I want to create a new item or do I want to add an item from gear locker? So for the purpose of this exercise, I want to add this item from my gear locker, and I'm going to go ahead and tap that. And as you can see, there are my boots that I just added, and of course it's at the top of the list here. And so I'm simply just going to tap that gear item, and of course if there were others I could go ahead and tap those as well, but all I need to do is tap the gear items that I want to move over, come down and tap this add to gear list button, and there it goes. It says success item added to gear list. So now that it's in the gear list, I can go ahead and use the search feature, and there it is. Now, it's neat showing this to you with one item. Of course, where this becomes really valuable is when you're building a gear list and you've got 75, 85, 100 items. If you're getting it down to smaller items like socks and toothbrushes, things like that. For myself, I'm building a gear list. I'm putting in, I'm putting in my snack bars. I'm putting in my hydration packets. I'm putting in a lot of different things. So that gear list gets pretty big pretty quickly. So you can imagine the ability to add, 35, 55, 100 items over in one foul swoop, and you've just built your gear list. It's pretty powerful.
That search feature is like having X-ray vision and standing in front of all your damn bins.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Which again is also a reason why I like to enter a generic name into for my items.
Yep.
So like if I'm searching for boots and I can just type in boots, it's infinitely easier than being like, okay, what did I label? Did I label them by the make? Did I label them by the brand? Did I just call them my hunting boots? Like, what is it? Again, the preference things, but that's how I like to construct my gear locker. So we're going to go out. We're going to go back to the gear section, and from here, I'm going to show you how you can delete a gear item from your gear locker. So we'll just go ahead and delete these boots that I just added. All you need to do is simply tap and hold down the tile for the gear item that you'd like to delete, and it'll bring up these little icons on the upper right corner of each tile. And if you tap one of these icons, it'll give you a confirmation prompt. Do you want to delete this item? And if you do, of course, hit delete. And if you don't, hit cancel. But we'll hit delete for this exercise. And that just goes ahead and it removes it. Now, you can still go down and you can delete any other number of these items if you'd like. And so if you've got multiple items you need to delete or want to delete, you can do it again in one, efficient step. But suppose that you're done deleting, all you have to do is, of course, hit done, and you've completed effectively adding an item to your gear locker, moving it to a gear list, or using it in a gear list, and then, of course, deleting it. So from here, we'll go over to Wishlist. So tap the Wishlist at the top screen there, and it will present to you, starting from top to the bottom, the total number of items that you have in your wish list and the cumulative price or cost of those items. And we touched on that earlier. Of course, you can search just like your gear locker and your gear list and so forth. And then I've got a few items in here already, but you can see it's laid out pretty similar to your gear locker. So it should be fairly intuitive. We'll go ahead and we'll just go through real quickly how to add an item to your wish list. Again, tap the plus sign at the bottom of the screen. It'll bring up the screen very similar to adding an item to your gear locker. For this example, I'm gonna put a hard cooler, and it's gonna be a Yeti, and let's say it's a 65 quart model, and I think these are going for $350 these days. I'm done. I've got all my information in, and I'll add that to the wish list. And again, similar to the gear locker, I have the option to add another item to the gear list and go adding multiple items a little bit more efficiently that way, or I can just go back to the wish list. So now that I've added that hard cooler, you can see it's at the top. You can see you've got the title, you've got the cost, you've got the brand and the model, but up top now you see that we have 5 total items, and that total item price or cost has now included that additional $350 for that hard cooler. Now, if you wanted to delete one of these items, it's similar to how you would a gear locker item. You tap and hold the tile, brings up the icons that you can then tap to delete. In this case, I'm actually going to cancel because I don't want to delete this item. But let's say that I do purchase or acquire this cooler, and now I want to have that in my gear locker. Instead of having to enter that again in your gear locker, or effectively create it again, all you'll want to do is swipe left on this tile, reveal this button that says move to gear locker, tap that, it'll bring up a confirmation. I'll tap yes, I do want to move, and now that item has been removed from the wish list. So I'm back down to 4 total items, and my total price is $298 again. And if I go back to gear locker and I go ahead and I search for hard cooler, there it is, Yeti 65 quart. So that kind of brings the gear section, gear locker, wish list full circle, and that's what you need to know.
Can you delete items off your wish list?
Yeah. So if you go back into the wish list, and just like the gear locker, tap and hold the tile for whatever it is, whatever item you'd like to delete, and tap the icon in the upper right corner. It'll bring up the prompt that says delete. And of course, if you want to delete it, click delete. If you don't, in fact, want to delete it, then hit cancel and come down here, hit either cancel or done below, and the delete feature is disengaged.
Sweet.
So, thank you very much. Wish you good luck in building out your gear locker, and then of course building out some gear lists and throwing some stuff on the wish list, and hope you get everything that you'd like.